What does success mean to you?
Being happy in everything that you're doing. I think just being happy is what success is. It's because people don't realise the energy that the moon gives off. The moon controls the tide. Us as humans, we're made of 80% water, so you don't think it's affecting us. Well, it definitely is. I'm back now, and I've created my own podcast coming off of that. So all these positive things happen, and if I was just to focus on the negative, I wouldn't be as happy as I am now. Like, the heavier life gets, the stronger you become. For example, you go to the gym, the heavier weights you lift, the stronger your muscles are becoming. I just started making this noise like... My vision just started going really weird, and I was like, what is going on? And suddenly I just went into like a full-blown seizure. So I had a scan, and they're like, okay, we found a mass on your brain. And I was like, okay. But they wouldn't really tell me what it was. So I just thought, oh, it's just a mass. They weren't really explaining it. I'm going to need to keep you in that intensive care for a few days just while we kind of work out what's going on. Yeah, so we've found out she's got a 5 centimetre brain tumour, but you can't tell her. You just need to go home tonight and we'll tell her tomorrow. That was probably one of the scariest moments of my life, going into that room, not knowing what they're about to say.
So Jen, what does success mean to you?
Success, that's not a hard one, but that can have a lot of different answers. I think for me, success is just being happy in everything that you're doing, whether that's your career, with your family, your friends, your just general life. I think just being happy is what success is, because a lot of people say, oh, I want to get this watch, this car, this house, I finally made it, I'm successful. But majority of people like that are going to be actually sad, depressed most of the time.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think they're so set on just getting those things, and they're like, once I get that, I'll be happy. And then they get to that point and they get it, and they still always come like an anticlimax. So I remember I went to Stephen Bartlett podcast in, I think it was in theatre somewhere.
Yeah,
and did you go to that?
Yeah, we went to one. He's done quite a few, but they're cool, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really good. And he said the same thing. He was like, when I was younger, I started off like that. I wanted to get everything. And he finally got his dream car, and it was like such an anticlimax feeling, because he wanted more than that. It's like you constantly want more. So I think success to me is just being happy in what you're currently doing, and to get that, you've got to like work on your mindset, how you, like the self-love you give yourself, but just genuinely sitting there and being like, am I happy with life? And if the answer is yes, then that would be success to me.
Are you happy right now in life?
Yeah, I am. I mean, obviously there's parts I could be happier in. Like, I wouldn't say I'm 100% happy in every single part of my life, but majority of it right now, yeah, definitely.
Do you live quite a balanced life?
Yeah, so I have like a good work-life balance. Obviously I've got my own podcast on the side. I've got my 9 till 5 normal job, and I've just moved into a new place, which is really fun. And I've got good friends, family. So I'm really, like, everything is, I'd say it is proper balance. Obviously, I'm single. That side of my life is pretty unbalanced, but also I'm loving it at the same time because I'm still young, still having fun going out. And I think it's also good that I am, because I'm working on myself right now, especially after everything that happened to me, without having to worry about someone else.
So obviously, with what happened to you, go back from the start with what's happened.
So it's a big story. Yeah, so me and my friend Lucy went travelling in 2022. Yeah, September 2022. I was meant to be gone for years. I was still meant to be in Australia probably, but I'm not. I'm here in Wallingham. So we started going travelling in September and went to Malaysia, then Bali, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam. But in Bali, out of nowhere, we was in a taxi up to the north. So we were driving up. It was like a 2-hour journey. And we just got off at like a really good viewpoint. And then I got back in the car and I was just sitting there and I was like, oh my God, I feel really weird. And I started having this deja vu. And this deja vu thing I had for like 2 years prior to travelling. So you get a normal deja vu where you're like, I'm sure I've seen that before. This was like intense.
That's mad.
Like, if I had it right now, I wouldn't be able to understand what you were saying to me. And the words, I wouldn't be able to put a sentence back. So if you were like, oh, Jen, how are you feeling today? I'd be like, oh yeah, that microphone over there is the dusty camera next to it. You'd be like,
and then would you be aware you just did that or not?
Yeah, but I couldn't get myself out of it. like it was weird. I'd have to just let myself. So I'd have to like, as I had it for so long, I knew if it was coming along, like if I could feel it coming along right now, I just wouldn't speak, and then it would finally go after like 30 seconds.
Wow.
So that is what happened, and I've been to the doctors about it. I was like, what is this weird? Because I'd Google it, and like nothing would come up. I was like, I can't be the only person feeling this. Like it's just weird, and it happened when I went on holiday about 3 years ago, and I came back. And I was home alone, and I always used to get so scared about being home alone. And that night I had a really scary nightmare, and I woke up and was sick in the middle of the night. And looking back now, I think that probably was a full seizure.
Wow.
And then since I was sick in that night, I started getting the deja vu. So when I got the first one, I remember I was driving, and my friend was speaking next to me, and I like couldn't understand anything they were saying. I was like, what the hell is going on right now? Like I was so freaked out. So that happened for like years. I just thought, okay, maybe I'm a weirdo. Maybe this just happens to me. And like, I try and explain it to other people, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Jen. And my dad used to be like, oh yeah, I used to get that all the time when I was younger. I think he just meant normal deja vu. I was like, yeah, but if you've experienced this one, you know. Like, I couldn't even remember my password to my phone. And like, I'd go to the cash machine, couldn't remember my PIN for my card. Like, it was just mental. So anyway, yeah, going back to that. So in Bali, I had one of those, but it was like the most intense one I've ever had. I was having it, and I normally, like, when I'm having it, I'm like, oh, it's fine, it'll go in a second. So I was just looking out the window. I was like, oh, it's fine, it'll pass. And then, like, my vision just started going really weird. And I was like, what is going on? And then suddenly I just went into, like, a full-blown seizure.
And do you remember having the seizure? Or do you
No,
like
not
black
at
out?
all. It was literally completely blackout. So I was sat next to my friends, Kira and Charlie, and my friend Lucy was in the front. And she said she turned around, and I just started making this noise, like, oh, as weird as that sounds. Apparently my arm like flung up to the ceiling, like my eyes were rolled to the back of my head, and like I was basically like foaming out the mouth.
Oh my God.
And that my whole body was like,
Whilst in the cab?
Yeah, whilst in the cab. And then it's not funny, but it's kind of funny looking back on it. The taxi driver was like, oh, she's possessed by the devil. I had no idea what was going on. Bless Kira next to me, she was crying. Charlie was like, what is going on? Lucy was hanging out her ass in the front seat anyway, so that like really woke her up. I think for everyone it was just like, what is going on? So yeah, I don't remember it actually happening. And then the only bit I remember is after I had the seizure, so when you have them it can make you sick. And I just remember being sick, like on this random field, and Charlie was holding me up, and I kind of like came back to it. I was like, what is going on? And then it's fine, Jen, we'll get you back in the cab, like we'll just get you to the hospital. I thought I was probably just really hungover and I was just being sick. Like, it wasn't really making sense. So anyway, then went to the hospital, and we were in like the north of Bali. So it was the tiniest hospital ever. There was like 2 rooms. So went in there, had like blood tests. They were like, okay, yeah, results come back. She's got salmonella, and a side effect of salmonella could be a seizure. We were like, oh, okay, fine. But I did not have salmonella because I had no symptoms whatsoever. Yeah. So the fact I had a seizure and I had no other symptoms of it, I was like, bit weird, but fine, we'll just accept that. And then they let me go from the hospital. They're like, okay, so we're going to have to put you on a drip for 3 days, like to get it out of your system. At the end of the day, I think they were just lying, like they were just trying to make money where they can, because it was a tiny hospital. So I had to pay like $2,500 for drips for 3 days, and I just had to go back to the hostel, and they'd come like twice a day to give it to me. And then yeah, went through that and then carried on travelling. Didn't think anything of it. Thank God I had travel insurance, because the costs got like covered. Obviously, I'm not paying $2,500 for just drips that aren't even actually curing me of that. Yeah. But yeah, so I carried on travelling, carried on having deja vu, but I didn't think anything of it. And then we got to, where was it? This place in Bali, and I started feeling really anxious out of nowhere. Like I couldn't sleep in the night. And I went to get a massage with my friend, and I had really bad deja vu again while they were doing it. And I think because I had like such PTSD of going into that full seizure, I was kind of thinking, oh my God, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. And then it didn't. But I was just like, there is definitely something wrong with me. This isn't just anxiety that's causing deja vu, because that's what the doctor said it was. So I was like calling my mum. I was like, Mum, I think I need to come home. Like I need to get something looked into, because there is something not right in my body. Like I just don't know what's going on. And then my mum and sister were like, Jen, I don't think it's anything major. And I think they feel really guilty for that now, bless them. But obviously they don't know. No one knows. So I just carried on. I was like, oh, I'll get through it. It's just anxiety. I'll get over it. Yeah, I didn't get over it. It wasn't just anxiety, no.
And was you actually suffering with like anxiety?
No, so like my mental health has always been so good. Like I'm so grateful for it. But that trip, yeah, I've never been that anxious in my life. Like, I couldn't sleep. There was nights I genuinely could not get to sleep. I just literally thought something bad was going to happen. Like, my heart rate was constantly going so fast. And it was that trip where it literally came out the worst. And then, so we carried on anyway. I kind of just put that behind me. I was like, oh, come on, let's just carry on. It'll be fine. And then we got to Vietnam, and it was one morning we were walking around. I don't know when it was, but I had a really bad night's sleep. And I just had like 2 coffees in the morning, which I don't normally drink. So it was like caffeine on top of no sleep. They're like, that's prone to create a seizure. Like, that's kind of like brings them on if you do suffer with seizures. So he was walking down the street, and since I was told I had salmonella, I hadn't eaten chicken since that. But that day I had a chicken baguette because I really fancied it in this shop. And then we were walking down the street, and I started having deja vu really bad. And I went to the cash point to get money out, and I couldn't remember my PIN. I was like, oh no. I was walking down the street, and I was like to Lucy, Lucy, I feel really weird. But obviously I wasn't saying it properly, so she just knew something was happening. And then I just like fell into her arms and had a complete blown seizure again. And if you know Vietnam, like, all the streets, they're so tiny, like so narrow. Apparently everyone just like ran over to me and put me on a chair and was trying to help me. And I don't remember any of that. And then I was just like being sick again. And then they called an ambulance, and thank God it was like a newly built hospital just around the corner, a French one. And it was like a massive one of like the central, like in Hanoi in Vietnam. So it was great service there. And they're all right. So got in an ambulance, went for a scan, went for an MRI. And I should have gone for a scan the first time. It's like every time you have a seizure, you should, if you can, get a scan. But obviously in Bali, they didn't have, they didn't have that. So I had a scan, and they're like, okay, we found a mass on your brain. And I was like, okay. But they wouldn't really tell me what it was. So I just thought, oh, it's just a mass. They weren't really explaining it. And they're like, we're going to need to keep you in that intensive care for a few days just while we kind of work out what's going on. So I was kind of relieved in a way, because I was Googling stuff like, why is this deja vu coming along? And they say it could be temporal lobe epilepsy. So I thought, maybe if there's a mass in that part of my brain, that's just what's causing the deja vu and seizure. So maybe I've just got epilepsy. And that's what I thought. But yeah, I was a little bit wrong on that one. Yeah. And I think that's why I don't Google stuff, because
trying to self-diagnose.
Yeah, you're literally never you're never going to know the answer. And if you find stuff, you're just going to find stuff that is so scary that you're going to give yourself that anxiety when there's just no point until you're actually told. So yeah, I was in intensive care for like 3 days. And then they told my friend who I was travelling, they were like, okay, before she was leaving, they were like, can we just bring you into a room for a second while like Jen's upstairs? She's like, yeah, is everything okay? They were like, yeah, so we've found out she's got a 5 centimetre brain tumour, but you can't tell her. You just need to go home tonight and we'll tell her tomorrow. So bless her, she had to go back to the hospital on her own without me, knowing that I had a 5 centimetre brain tumour, and she couldn't tell anyone. So I think that was awful. I think that was probably like the worst part for her.
Yeah.
She must have felt so guilty knowing I was just sat in that hospital on my own.
So did your family get a call?
Well, she didn't tell my family yet, but they got a call that I was in hospital, and I spoke to them, and they were like, what's going on? I was like, I don't really know. There's a mass. They just need to work it out. And then they told me the next day. But I think 'cause I was in a constant state of shock, I wasn't really taking in what they were actually saying. They're like, okay, Jen, you've got a tumour on your left temporal lobe, and that's the part that's like controls all the speech, memory, everything, which explains why when I was having deja vu, it was partial seizures in my brain. And that's why I couldn't speak when I was having them. And it spread into a full seizure when like whatever was going on there spread over to the other side of my brain. That's when it makes your whole body go into a seizure. Wow.
So they were all mini seizures?
They were all mini seizures. So I've been having mini seizures for the past 3 years, and I didn't even know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it was then that I had to, they're like, okay, we need you to fly home because you need to go and see a surgeon like immediately. So
they don't operate out there, or?
No, because I think then I would have had to stay out there for ages to recover to be able to then fly home. And also that would have been so expensive over there. Whereas being back here, I was lucky because I was under 25, I was covered on private insurance under my mum's company. So we went private when we got back,
that's handy.
Which I'm so grateful for, because obviously the NHS, they still would have done it, but I was operated in like a really nice hospital in London, and everything was just so fast. So yeah, so I came back, got and 2 doctors had to fly out to come and meet me on the flight. So, but it was unreal because I got to fly home business class and it was so nice. And bless my dad, he flew out to come and meet me because Lucy, my friend, like we'd met groups of people and they were going on to the Hai Giang Loop in Vietnam. I was like, please go on with the group. Like, I don't want your travelling trip to end just because mine has. And she was like, no. I was like, Lucy, it'll make me more upset if you actually don't go on it. So she carried on, and then my dad flew out to stay with me until they could fly a doctor out to fly me back home. So, yeah, I got flown home, then had to go see a surgeon. The surgeon that I was going to go and see. And he was amazing, to be fair, but that was probably one of the scariest moments of my life, going into that room, not knowing what they're about to say. So I had like 3 or 4 scans before, MRIs, and I got into the meeting with him. He just showed me like on the screen, and it literally was like, it was crazy. Huge. It was like a massive 5 centimetre tumour on this side of my brain here. And he was like, okay, so they can't tell what grade it is because with brain tumours there's different grades. There's like 1, 2, 3 and 4. Grade.
Is that what, like stage, like
cancerous? It is kind of the same, but not completely the same. Like there's a lot more stages and grades. So grade 1 and 2 are benign ones, so they're like low grade. Grade 3 and 4 are malignant ones. So at the time you can't tell what it is just by a scan. You need to do a biopsy to see what it is. So my surgeon was saying, by the looks of it, I'm unsure. It could be low grade, but I think it potentially is on the border of a high grade one. So them saying that, where they're like, so that means you've got like a malignant cancerous tumour. It was kind of like, I remember it was going in one ear and out the other. Like I just felt like I wasn't in the room. It was so weird. Like it was so scary. And all these terms he was using, I had no idea what he was talking about. And he was like, because it's in the speech part of your brain, we're going to have to do awake brain surgery. And I literally was like, what? He's like, yeah, so we're going to put you to sleep. And then halfway through, once we've cut through your skull, everything, I was like, okay. God. He was like, you're going to have to be awake because my type of tumour, normally, well, not normally, but with some tumours, you have like the brain there and a tumour there, you can easily remove it. Yeah. Whereas the type of mutation I had in my cells is called an IDH mutation, which means the tumour just doesn't grow outside of the brain. Like all the cells intertwine through the brain. So in order for him to remove it, he'd have to remove chunks of my brain to get the tumour out. Oh my God. Yeah. So I had to be awake. So if I couldn't answer a question, so he'd ask me each question. He'd be like, Jen, count to 10. And I'd count to 10. Then he'd press a part of my brain he knew he couldn't remove. And I'd say it started. I'd be like, 1, 2, 3. And he'd press it. And I just, like, the words wouldn't come out my mouth.
It's so crazy how the brain works.
I know. It's like all this stuff you don't know about. And they like say the alphabet, all of this, and they would just ask me questions. So if I couldn't answer the questions throughout the surgery, he knew he had to leave that bit there. Right. But there wasn't any I couldn't answer. I think every single one I answered. So that's why he'd done it. And I think it was about 4 or 5 hours long. Really? I think I was awake for about 3 hours.
And what about, are you under, what's it called, local? Is it like, can you feel any pain?
No. Oh, God, no. I don't think I'd be able to do that with the bloody chainsaw going through my head. But, yeah, it was weird. I couldn't feel it, but I could still, like, feel my mouth and face talking. But I was basically screwed into the bed. So I had, like, when I came out, I had, like, little marks here because they screwed, like, screws into my head to connect to a plate so I couldn't move my head. So I was screwed down on the bed like that. So I genuinely couldn't move.
So what are you thinking when you're in that operation room?
Sounds weird, but I was kind of loving it. Like I was like, I'm the main character, it's got everyone around me. But no, I don't know.
Your family in there or not?
Yes, no, they weren't in the room, but we got the train in the morning, and that was so weird. We got the train in the morning up to Cleveland Hospital, which is by Hyde Park. And we were on the train, everyone was just on their morning commute to work, like kids on the like train for school. I was like, it's mad that I'm sitting around here about to go get awake brain surgery and everyone's just going to work.
No one knows, you never know what
it was so
going
weird
on in their lives, do you?
No, so we checked into the hospital, my family were all there and they were like, okay, we've got to take her down now. So I just got like wheeled out in a wheelchair. I was like, bye everyone. Oh, and then my family went and got lunch, but apparently they were all just so anxious, obviously, just waiting.
So what's the risks going into that surgery, do they tell you?
Yeah, there's a lot of risks. Like the surgeon came in before, we were like, obviously you don't want to hear this, but there is a risk that she could die while we're operating because obviously if he does something wrong, I literally could die. Or they said he could hit the wrong part of my brain, I won't be able to speak again, or I won't be able to hear again because the tumour is right near my like ear canals as well. So he was like, if we do something wrong there, you may not be able to hear. God. There was a lot of risks and it's just like you have to take that risk. Otherwise, because the type of tumour I had, which I then found out about, was a grade 3 malignant astrocytoma.
What's that mean in English? Simple terms.
So grade 3 malignant, that's like very cancerous.
Yeah.
Astrocytoma, that's just a type of tumour, the way it grows.
Right.
So if you weren't to get that removed, you'd have about 4 to 5 years to live, basically. So that's where they're like, we need to get this out, otherwise she's gone. So they removed like all of it, which was amazing, because before the surgery, he was like, some people it doesn't go well, it depends how they react. So if you're not reacting well and you get too scared, we've got to shut the surgery off and you've got to leave some of it there. And he said, one girl I operated on, I opened it up, and the way it was so like intertwined in her brain, I could not remove any of it. So she got woken up and was told that we couldn't remove any of it.
Wow.
So it was scary when he said that, but I think that scariness of it kind of gave me the motivation to be like, that's not going to happen to me. Like, I'm going to make sure I will stay awake as long as they need. Like, it got to a point that, okay, they were like, Jen, we're going to put you back down now because we don't need you to be awake anymore. I was like, okay, fine. Just drifted back off to sleep again. I was like, thanks, everyone. See you later.
What's that feeling like? Apparently that's a good feeling for a few seconds when you get put to sleep.
Yeah, it's weird. You literally just feel like you're floating. Like, they'll start asking you questions. But I remember they put it in the wrong part because the person, you have to have stuff put in your, either your wrist or your elbow to get into the veins. And the guy that done it, instead of putting it in the vein, he put it in the artery or something. So there was like blood going everywhere. And I was like, oh, come on, it doesn't have to go like this. So when they were actually putting the anaesthetic in, it was really painful. And I remember as I was falling asleep, they were like, oh no, it's not working. So I was like, oh no, what's going on? But then obviously it did work, so I was put to sleep.
Yeah.
So it was actually fine, yeah.
Wow, that's so intense. So then once the surgery's done, do they know that straight away it's been a success once you've woken up? They know they've got it all out, or do they have to do more scans or...
Yeah, so I think from his perspective, the surgeons, he can see that it's done. So
Right.
I had it all out, and then I went for a scan the next morning just to sort of confirm that it has been all been removed. So it wasn't until the next day I had the MRI, and then he came in the room. He was like, it went really well. Like, we've removed 99% of it. And they can't say 100% because of the type of tumour and the way it grows.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the scan they can see. There could be cells that are still in there that they can't say it's fully gone, yeah.
So
but
then,
yeah, they've got it all out basically.
Then did you have to do radio or chemo after that?
Yeah, so because it was a grade 3, but I didn't know at this point before the surgery what it was. It was like a month after I got a phone call. I remember I was on a train going out to dinner in London. So they said, we think it is high grade. So it's either grade 3 or 4. I remember I got the call and I had it like from my oncologist coming through, because then I went to the Royal Marsden and got seen by an oncologist. And he was like, Jen, we don't know what it is yet, but it could be grade 3 or 4. So because of the type of tumour it was, you will need radiotherapy and chemotherapy. If it's a grade 3, you'll just have radio on its own and then chemo after. But if it's grade 4, you're going to have to do both at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Which would like proper knock you out. I was like, oh, come on, just be grade 3. And I mean, obviously, there was no chance it's going to be grade 1 and grade 2 just because how active it was. And the surgeon said, I think you've had this tumour since you were like 10 years old.
It's crazy.
And that's it. And they think it probably started as a low-grade tumour, but where I left it for so long, it just got bigger and bigger, turned high grade. And this is why I want to speak about it, because if I probably went to the doctors earlier about that déjà vu when I was having partial seizures, it could have been a low-grade brain tumour. So it wouldn't have got to the extent that it did. But, I mean, I guess you just learn about things, which is...
So how many times, when was the first time you went to the doctors here in the UK?
When I got back from travelling, or when...
No, how far before the seizures happened? Because you said you already had gone and asked them.
Yeah, so it was about 3 years before the full seizures. Yeah, I was having déjà vu.
So if they had picked it up then, there's a good chance it would have been a low grade.
Yeah.
And what did they fob you off with when you went there?
They just said it was anxiety. They just said, oh, you're probably just, it's anxiety. It's just a side effect of being anxious. I was like,
And how many times did you go? Just that once? Or?
Yeah. Because I'm thinking, when someone's told me that, I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'm just a weirdo that gets this. Then so I'm kind of like that. I just get on with things. Like, I don't want to make a big fuss, and I'm not that scared about things happening like that. So I just thought that was just normal. And people didn't understand what I was saying. So I was like, maybe people get it, but they don't. I thought, but this is just what I've got to live with. But yeah, it wasn't. So if it would have got found earlier, it would have been better, yeah.
It's hard here. The doctors, the NHS especially now, they're so just busy.
I know, but I do get, like, the doctor wasn't a neurologist. Like, he doesn't know. He's a GP. Like, it's just general practice. You can't say exactly what every single thing is. But that's why I wanted to speak about it, because obviously it's horrible if anyone is experiencing it, but if you are experiencing it to that extent, because I've never heard anyone else go through that. But if you are, I would definitely go get it checked out and not just let someone tell you that it's just anxiety, because it won't be that. No.
So then with the radio and chemo, which one did you have to do in the end? At the same time, or one then?
No, so I was on the train going out for London, and I got the call from my oncologist, and I remember I was just sitting there, I was like, oh my God, please. Because if this is grade 4, I'm not going out for dinner because I'll be in a bad mood.
Yeah.
He was like, hi, Jen. I was like, oh, he sounds a little bit happy. It could be all right. He's like, just to let you know, good news, it's a grade 3. I was like, yeah, I mean, as good as that is, you know what I mean?
Best
but it is better.
Bunch,
yeah, exactly. I was like, oh my God, yes, it's only a grade 3. So obviously they're not massively different, but it's just the way that they grow. Grade 4 grows a lot quicker. So as long as it's grade 3, that's a lot better. And now they've removed it, it would take a lot longer for a grade 3 one to grow back, if it did, than a grade 4. So he was like, okay, next steps, you'll come into the office, like where I go and have my meetings with him, and we'll speak about your treatment. So I'll see you like next week or something. I was like, okay, brilliant. So then went in, and he was like, okay, so we're going to put you through radiotherapy, where you're going to have to go Monday to Friday for 6 weeks. So that was...
Every day?
Every day, yeah. So Monday to Friday, and I couldn't drive, because once you've had a seizure, you can't drive for a year.
What is radiotherapy?
So it's where you lay in a bed, and it's like a massive scanning unit comes around your head, and it's like lasers. Obviously, you can't see them, but it's lasers are going into that part of your body. So my nan had breast cancer, and she had it like on her breast as well. So it kind of just... I don't really know how it works, but it's lasers that go through and it attacks the cells and breaks them down.
Right.
So if there was remaining cells of cancer in the tumour, it's basically just attacking them to destroy them. So it's kind of it's not similar to chemo, but it's doing the same thing. It's destroying the cells. But I think it's when you get radiotherapy and chemo, it just makes the effects of radiotherapy last longer. So I just had to go and lay down, and I had to get a mask moulded to my head, which got screwed into the bed every day, because it had to hit a certain point. If I moved, it would have gone like to a different part of my brain.
Wow.
So before I started the radiotherapy, I had to go and literally lie down, and these women put like this hot gel over my face. I literally just had to lay there and not move at all for like 20 minutes. And then it like moulded, and they took it off. Oh, it was honestly so ugly. And it just like, had a bit like carved out from my mouth, and it was so gross. So every day I'd go in Monday to Friday, lay down on the bed, they'd put the mask on and like screw it into the bed, so I literally couldn't move my head. And I'm lucky I'm not like claustrophobic, but if someone was, that's quite traumatizing. So Monday to Friday I'd lay there every day for about 20 to 45 minutes depending on what it was. So I'd just lay there. I just quite liked it, because I would just fall asleep. I was having like a little daily nap every day. And I'd get that Monday to Friday, and then after that, there was actually one point, and it's so good, there was one point where they realised the lasers were going into the wrong bit, and it was touching my ear canal so closely that if I would have kept getting that, I would have gone deaf in that ear. And it's crazy, like the amount they have that they can just see what's going on.
Such
it's just
small margins as well when you're...
Yeah.
Your brain.
It's just, it is nuts. So...
into the wrong way in your...
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so grateful they've got all that technology to do that. Which is why I'm constantly doing charity events to raise money for the Royal Marsden, because the more money they get, the more beneficial all these technologies will be. So I had 6 weeks of radiotherapy, and they were like, by the 6th week, you're going to feel really tired because it's literally draining you. And he's like, but you could do a little bit of walking each day and you'll feel a little bit better. I was like, right, you said that, I'm going to make sure I do 5k a day, like 10,000 steps every single day. Because I don't want to get to that point where I'm feeling tired and not being able to do stuff, because I was 23 at the time. Like, I still want to live my life. I don't want to be bed bound, sofa bound, sit there feeling sorry for myself. So I got through it, and I literally didn't really get any sort of side effects at all from radiotherapy. I mean, I say that, I literally lost half of my hair underneath.
From radiotherapy?
Yeah, like, I don't know if you can see now. So can you see these little curls here? They're really short.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of my hair. All of this under here, all of that fell out. But obviously you'd never know, because I'd put the top of my hair over it.
See, I didn't know you could with radiotherapy. I thought.
Yeah, because it's so powerful. It's basically destroying all the cells in that area. It's killing all your hair follicles.
It's going in the location of your hair.
Yeah. So I lost all of the hair there. It literally was like a baby's bum. Like, it was so bald and just so soft. So that is the only side effect I got. And it got to the 6th week, and he was like, "How are you feeling? You tired?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "I've never actually seen a patient not feel tired or run down." It's because I made it. I was like, when someone says you're going to get really ill, you're going to get tired, I'm so determined that that's not going to happen. And I'm so set on doing it.
Eating healthy and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, saying that, I would still go out each weekend and like go to bars, get drunk and stuff.
Was you? So you were drinking whilst...
Yeah. I was still going out.
Okay.
But I was just making sure I was getting my steps in. So I think there's that whole thing. If you sit there on the sofa and be like, oh, I'm going to be so ill. I'm not going to be able to walk. I'm going to be so bedbound. You're literally telling your body you're going to do that. And that's why you're getting into that transition of being bedbound, like sofa bound. And I was like, that's just not going to happen.
So how, obviously, I mean, it's bad for anyone, but especially a young girl, losing the hair. How did that affect you badly or?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I'm grateful that I've got long hair that I could cover it up, and I'm grateful it was in that part of my head. Because if it was here and I lost it, that would be a lot worse. Whereas I'm grateful it was there, but it was hard because I used to wear my hair up in buns all the time. I couldn't do that. I have to wear it down all the time, and it just get frustrating. Like normally, if you just run out to the shop as a girl, you just chuck your hair in a bun, run out. I literally couldn't do that, so it was greasy hair. I had to wear like a hat or something, or just go out with greasy hair, and I would just feel disgusting because it was literally all of that was bald. And it got to a point I was like, you know what, I don't even care. And I just put it up. But it was just weird to see, I think, as well, because seeing yourself go bald, you're like, shit, this has actually happened to me. Whereas before, I was kind of not actually realising it was happening.
Doesn't sink in.
Yeah. Whereas when I was going bald, and I think the worst part was, obviously, when I brushed my hair and I'll play with my hair and go like this, I remember the day I was sat on the sofa, I just went like this and I pulled out like a massive chunk and I literally was like, oh my God. I just felt like crying. I think that's probably one of the lowest parts of it, was that when it was actually happening. But other than that, it was fine.
What about then chemo after? How was that?
Yeah, that was probably a little bit worse just because the effects it had. So after the radio, I was actually put on a tablet form of chemo. So it wasn't... Normally the drip chemo is when you see people and they lose all of their hair, their eyelashes, their eyebrows, absolutely everything. Whereas I'm so grateful it was tablet form. So
is that just because of the type of cancer it was?
Yeah, it was a type of cancer in the place it was located in my body. So I'd take the tablet and it would get absorbed through my liver, I think. I mean, I don't know if I'm saying this wrong. And then the way it would get absorbed into my blood, that would then go up to my brain.
Right.
And I'd be able to take it that way. Because I think I don't know how it works. I think it's the type of cells could be attacked by the tablet form. So every month I would have a scan before my session, and then I'd have to take 2 tablets a night for 5 days in a row.
Once a month?
Yeah, once a month. So by the 5th day of chemo, I would start to feel really sick, and I'd have to take anti-sickness tablets and get really constipated. Like I literally would feel like I was like 6 months pregnant, but also just being sick at the same time. Like that was horrible. But as it went on and got to like the 12th month, it did progressively get worse. Like I did feel more sick.
So sorry, you did that for 12 months?
12 months, yeah. So I'd done that for a year, yeah. So yeah, just every month I'd go and get a scan. But it was kind of a good thing because every month getting a scan,
you know, you're being checked up on.
Yeah, I was getting checked up. So yeah, done 12 months of chemo. But I was a bit stupid because every time I was doing chemo, it was always the heaviest weekends going out drinking. So I was hungover with chemo belly as well. I mean, I kind of bought it myself, but yeah, I would just feel absolutely knackered by the 5th day. But at the beginning, it wasn't too bad, but it would just proper drain you and feel sick. Yeah. But I'm grateful I had that rather than the drip form, because the drip is where you lose all your hair, literally all your energy. So I'm so grateful I got that form rather than, the
So
drip.
when did you finish this? When did you finish the chemo?
May this year.
Oh,
So
wow.
May 2023.
Recent.
Yeah.
Recent.
Yeah. So now it's all done now. I'm not on any treatment anymore.
2024.
God, maybe I need some treatment for my memory. But yeah, 2024 it finished, yeah.
So do you, and what's the process now? Do you have regular scans and checkups still?
Yeah, so I have scans every 3 months now. So
how long does that last for
rest of my life, basically.
Oh, really?
So it's every 3 months, and
that's a good. Oh well, yeah, that's a good thing, really, because
I know it's like a bittersweet situation where it's like I can't physically ever just leave it, but then it's also good because I know I'm going to be safe. Because if something was to grow back, which it won't, manifesting that, if it was to grow back, they can see it immediately and sort it out there. But I think it'll get to the point if it is completely clear every 3 months for a couple of years or something, it will then go down to like every 6 months every year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just seeing what happens and taking it step by step now.
What do they say the chances of it coming back are?
I mean, I think it's hard to say because it is so dependent on the person and the way those cells are working. I don't think that there's not a
set number.
Yeah, there's not a set number. And I think they don't really want to...
Do I want that?
Yeah, they don't really want to say that. But like my surgeon did say, this type of tumour I have, some of his patients have had to have that same surgery like 4 times in their life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think obviously there are chances of it coming back, but I'm just so into my manifesting that it's not coming back. Like, it's done. See you later.
So let's talk on that then. The mindset and the positivity.
Yeah.
Was you already always very positive, or has going through this just propelled you in your positivity?
I think my mindset's always been good, which I'm really lucky for being brought up like this. I've always been sort of in control of my mindset about staying positive. But I think this has just pushed me even further to that, because when I was going through it all, what am I going to do if I'm going to sit there and cry about it? What is that going to bring? That is literally not going to bring anything. I'd rather just get on with it and be happy, because why are you worrying about it? There's this stat that psychologists say 85% of the stuff you worry about never actually happens.
Yeah.
So why are you spending 90% of your day worrying about 15% of things that will actually go the wrong way? But then why are you spending your whole day worrying about that? That's not going to change the situation. So I think as I was going through this all, that's when I properly started getting into visualization and manifesting. And I think I used to do it before, but not to the extent I did going through that and now. Whereas I'd create a visualization board, and a lot of people just see this as like hippie, spiritual, weird stuff. Fair enough if you do, but I got through it fine, so I'm happy with it. So I had a visualization board about the surgery going well, my surgeon saying like it went amazing. So I'd have all different visualizations of things that were going to happen in my life. One of them was going to the Twickenham rugby game 11 days after surgery, because that was like one of the big games. I was like, I love going to the rugby. I was like, I need to make it to that game. So I was picturing myself there, picturing myself in the future with like a family. And you get yourself into that high vibrational state. And then when you're in that high vibrational state, you manifest certain affirmations. So mine were, I'm so grateful my surgery went well. I'm so grateful my scans are completely clear. I'm so grateful I'm successful in life in different types of ways. And I just say them to myself every single night, and then you'd feel so happy. And then it comes down to law of attraction. If you're vibrating at that high level of energy, you're just bringing good stuff into your life. So that's what I was really using going through the surgery and everything like that, because it's just, why are you going to cry? That's what I just don't, I get it's scary, and I get people deal with it differently. Like, it's very fine for me to say when I have good mental health, I completely get that. But I just think life's too short to be worrying about stuff.
That's such a strong mindset.
Because worrying is not going to fix it. If anything, it's going to make it worse. Because when you're in that vibrational state of worrying, the frequency you're vibrating on, you're literally just going to attract negative things into your life.
So how have you educated yourself around this? Any books, podcasts, videos? Like, how have you?
Yeah, a lot of it is sort of TikToks and YouTubes that you look up on it. And books, there's a few books I've read. What's that one called? The Heal Your Own Life. That's a really good one. And all the books that Vex writes. Vex King is his name. Don't know if that's the right name. Can't remember the names. But it is more just I like a lot of YouTube and meditating. That's how I got into it. And when you do meditating sessions, they speak about the law of attraction. Oh, The Secret. That's the one I started with. Yeah, that's what I started with. Was The Secret. Yeah. And then Good Vibes, Good Life. I think there was one another, don't know, my memory of that stuff is awful, so cut that bit out as well. But yeah, I think it's just self-teaching myself by looking it up as well. And there's a lot of blogs online that you can look up how to visualise, how to manifest. So I think it is all just about self-teaching. Then once you start looking into that online, your whole For You page comes up with similar content. So you're just teaching yourself about that.
Listen to our podcast. Don't know what episode it will be. It was in the old studio, so probably 25 or 30 or something. On the Multipliers Club, Rob Hyacey. He's wicked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's what's he called himself? The UK's #1 unconscious mind therapist. But yeah, that episode was really cool, and we spoke about all of that visualization.
Yeah.
About he talks about not looking. He says about sort of living in the here and now and the future, not looking back at.
Yeah.
It was a good episode. Listen to it. It's interesting.
Oh, that sounds good. That's what I would definitely listen to, stuff like that. Because what he's saying about living the here and now is so true. Because looking back on things or looking to the future thinking that's going to go wrong, that's not going to do anything. That's
what he was talking about. He said, I can't quote it, but he said, like anxiety is taking something from the past and throwing it into the future. So that's why you're worrying, that you think something bad's going to happen again. Like you was anxious, partially expecting to get another main seizure in the future, but that's based off something that's happened in the past, where you said you want to live in the here and now in the future, but not by throwing previous past experiences there. So like you said, visualizing the rugby game, the happy family, all of that's a good place to live your life. And he said if you can live 80% of your life here and now and into the future, you're going to be living a happy life. He said naturally life is life, and you will get drawn back into sort of some bad thoughts or looking back, but he said there's so many people that live 80% the other way and just depressed and anxious, and
it's like, what are you doing? I know it's so easy to say what you doing that for, but I think it all comes down to you have to. There's a lot of people I've met as well, they say I'm just depressed, that's just the way life is, I can never get out of it. Like, you can get out of it, and it's easy for me to say not being through that state, but people just don't realise how powerful the mind is and how powerful the mindset is. And until you educate yourself on that, you're never going to realise. Because you can listen to other people's stories, you can listen to people's like mine, but until you work on yourself and actually put that self-work in and actually learning about it and practising it each day, then you'll see the effects of it, and then it will actually end up working. So it works so well for me. Basically everything I manifested on that literally came true. Like, I was so determined to get to that rugby game. I was like, I'm not going to let that go wrong. And I did, even though my head was swollen like a balloon, still went, had my first beer, and I was loving it. And it's just, like, I saw this thing the other day, it was actually quite funny. It's like, you need to tune into the frequency of stuff you want in life, about going up to this frequency. If you want to tune into a certain station on the radio, you tune into that frequency.
That's
otherwise,
exactly how I always describe
if you want to tune into Capital, but you tune into Heart's frequency, you're not going to hear Capital's music. So if you want to tune into a life of feeling happy, being successful, like having so much love around you, but your frequency you're at is feeling depressed and anxious, you're not going to get all of that because you're on the wrong level completely.
100%. Literally, it's so powerful. And that's why, for me, the most important thing is I go on my walks. So I like to try and get, usually outside, not on the treadmill. That's just for when I get rained off my walks. I've got a treadmill in my office now, so I can.
And I said, do you ever use that? Because
do sales calls and get my steps in if it's raining outside. But no, for me, it's so important to do my walks outside.
Yeah.
And that's where I get myself to the highest frequency. And same thing then, that's where visualizations and so on. But when I'm just in that state, everything just happens. It just it comes together. Everything you manifest, and the people you meet is that come into your life that are on that same wavelength and you feel aligned to. All of a sudden, it's unreal. Even with like Leanne, who works with me, we're always on the same frequency, and there's so many things that happen that are just crazy. Like I was saying the other day, on my walk, I was thinking about owning a bar. It's the sort of shit that sometimes I'm thinking of. And I was just visualizing that and thinking, okay, what would the bar be? What would I call it? Where would it be? What themes? And I just done a whole business plan of this bar, right?
Yeah.
In my head for an hour whilst on my walk. Never spoke about a bar before. Leanne never spoke about a bar before. That was at night. I come in the morning and I was pumped up for this bar because I was getting excited.
All of this in my head,
like, yes, I've got it all. Yeah. Come in the morning, the first thing Leanne said to me, have you ever thought about having a bar?
Shut up.
And I was like, what?
That's wild.
But that's just one example, and this sort of stuff has happened so often.
Yeah.
The reason I was telling the story the other day was because something else happened. I can't remember what that was, but we're just on the same frequency and same energy.
Yeah.
And it's just so powerful.
It is so powerful. And there's a big thing. I mean, this goes a little bit more down the spiritual side of things, which people don't believe in, but there's this thing called angel numbers. You know, like you see like 111, like whenever it's 1111, it's like, oh, make a wish. When I was going through surgery and everything I was going through, I kept seeing 222. And when I was looking it up, it's all about alignment. It's like, just trust the process that everything will work out. And I'm like, the fact I'm seeing that throughout, I'm going through all of this, I'm like, that is actually crazy. That's like, I know it is quite spiritual, but I believe there's like the universe protecting you, and that's like your little angels that are looking after you are giving you these little hints that just believe that it's going to be fine.
I love that.
Yeah.
Are you more, like on the spiritual side, are you more universe-based, or does it enter the religion world at all?
No, I'm more universe-based, and I'm more just about energies and crystals and
hey, where's my crystals? Under that thing is my crystals there. I've got crystals there. I usually have 2 on my wrist.
Really?
I've got crystals on my bedside, yeah.
Yeah, because they give off such good energy, and people don't realise that.
Yeah.
And so the full moon gives off so much energy.
It was the super moon recently that charged them all up.
Yeah. And there was a new moon a couple of days ago. Me and my sister were like, wow, I'm in such a great mood. It was a whole new moon. And it's because people don't realise the energy that the moon gives off. The moon controls the tide. Yeah, so if there's the moon's in a certain position, it'll be a full tide, low tide. Us as humans, we're made of 80% water, so you don't think it's affecting us. Well, it definitely is. Like, so it controls our life so much with the energy it gives off.
It does. Yeah, I love all of that stuff. When I've really got, and what I love is sort of when I look back at, sounds cliche, but kind of the journey just in this spiritual type world.
Yeah.
From how I was to where I am now. It's just a complete transformation. Something that elevated that massively for me was ayahuasca and microdosing as well. So I don't know if you've that's stories for a whole nother day, but that was game changing.
Really?
Yeah, look it up. Ayahuasca's.
What? So you just went to like a forest on your own?
Not on my own. No. So it was in the jungle in Mexico, deep in the jungle. So you have a shaman, there's a group of 12, 15 people there.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this at the ship,
Yeah, and it was wild. It's a night, it's very, very intense, but it's the kind of top level of spirituality unlocking. It's crazy.
And it opens up like a whole other side you're not aware of.
And it's all, that's when I really understood energy and frequency, and I was like looking at the stars and the moon and stuff, and just started all to make sense. And then the analogy, like you said, of the radio and the frequencies, that's when motorbikes making a lot of noise. That's when I came back, and that's how I was describing it to people. I was like, I get it, I understand it. Like think for like frequency, I was like, it's actually also science. It's all proven. It's not that hippie, because everyone knows what a frequency is, like that with an analogy of a radio or TV. Everyone knows that humans, we vibrate and we give off frequencies, like they can measure that. There's things to measure that. And that is what happens when they come together. Frequencies, depending on how strong it is as well. So the stronger it is, the further the vibrations and the, what would you call it, just the frequency goes.
Yeah, that's so
wavelengths
true.
and draws people in. So they've actually done experiments of I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like this pod you can go in where no frequencies can get in or out, right? No signals, no frequencies. And they can measure the frequencies that you're giving off.
Really?
And they did it, and they experimented by being in a whole nother room. They could end up tracking what emotion you was going through or what you was giving out. They found the strongest frequency that a human being can give off is authenticity. And that's what will most draw people into you. If you're being authentic and true to yourself, that's the strongest frequency to attract other people to you.
Wow. That makes so much sense, because when you are vibrating at that level, that is when you start receiving everything that you want. So like when you're at like that low level of anxious, depressed, you're literally not going to attract anything.
No.
That's so interesting.
It is.
But it's weird, isn't it? Like with frequencies and all stuff like that, it's like us humans only believe it when you can actually see it. Exactly. When you can see it on the TV, see it on the radio. It's like we don't believe things happen that we can't see, but there is so much that does. But it's like we believe in gravity. You can't see it, but we believe it because we can see everything affected by it. So why not believe in the energy that you give off is what you bring in? People just think it's all rubbish. Well, not all people, but a lot of people do. But it's not.
I think it's also like you can sense energy, can't you? Like, you know, if there was 5 scary criminals in the room, the energy is going to just be off, and you're going to feel like, oh. And when someone really positive walks in, like everyone would have someone like that in their life that's super positive. They walk in the room and you're just brought up instantly. Even if I was angry a second ago, now I'm not. I'm back in a good mood because that person's energy is so strong when they walk in. So
that's so true.
It's it's just about then trying to tap into it and control your mind and all of that. But how else do you try to control your mind and stay positive then, especially if you've not? Again, it's something that's has to be self-taught, I guess. I mean, for me, I actually got semi-taught NLP that, which is neuro-linguistic programming. I don't know if you've heard of it. That actually helped us a lot in a personal development, and that's techniques. But when you're just trying to teach yourself, what other techniques have you used?
I think other techniques, I think this is more kind of towards stopping yourself getting angry in certain situations. It's like that whole, I don't know if you read that book, The Chimp Paradox.
No.
It's all about,
I've seen that,
so it's about the human brain. We have our brain, which is like just functions normally, but then we have this little chimp on the side, and that's like how we react to everything. So say that you were in a situation that annoyed you, before you actually properly think about it, that initial chimp just goes. And I think the best technique that the book teaches you, that you have to learn how to control your chimp. So this situation I'm in, I've been told you've got cancer, it's grade 3, you've got this. I could let my chimp be like, oh my God, no, I'm going to die, my life is so sad, it's so shit, what a shit life, why have I got this? Or I can just take a second back and be like, okay, chimp, just get back in your cage, don't react. And then actually just see it from the other side of my brain, just realise I don't have to make it into this massive fatal situation. I can tune my mindset into the positive side and see it from a different point of view. I think that is such a big thing.
That's so
it's
powerful.
Just like taking a step back when you're told something. And I think that's why some people in life are just angry people, and you can try and tell them so much, I don't get angry, but they've just been a chimp their whole life. Or they've been so sad about certain situations, they just can't, their chimp is just bloody huge. It can't get back into its cage. It's burst all the doors of its cage. But you can teach yourself to just like make your chimp more friendly and not let it go crazy. And I think that's such a big thing for me. You're just taking a step back before you react.
Not letting situations, even naturally as humans, you still, well, at least maybe some people don't if you're further ahead, but are still sometimes kicking to that feeling of emotion of anger or whatever it is. But rather than it ruining your whole day or your whole evening or whatever, now within like 5 minutes at least, I can control it and take back control usually.
And I think it's the chimp, and also I think another big thing for me is just being grateful. Gratitude is such a big one. So like everything I was going through, instead of just seeing the negative side to everything, so I couldn't, after radiotherapy, when you have radiotherapy, you can't drive for 2 years. So I thought I was going to be able to drive in December again, which was a year after. They're like, no, you can't drive for 2 years. And I was like, oh my God.
So when did you have radio? So you're driving now?
Yeah, so I'm driving now, but I'm only driving now, so I wasn't meant to until June next year.
Okay.
Whereas recently, when I went to an appointment, I said, has anything changed in driving? They went, oh yeah, they've actually rewritten the rules. It's changed to 1 year if you've got a tumour that's not super high grade. And although mine was a 3, the way it's not grown back, that's now gone down to a year. So I was so lucky.
Oh, cool.
So that, for example, I could have focused on, oh my God, I'm not going to drive for so long. It's going to be so sad. Then I was like, see the positives. I'm saving so much money on petrol. I'm saving money on parking in a car park and having to pay for that. I'm getting free lifts off my parents and friends. Like, you need to see the positives rather than just focusing on the negative aspects of it. And although it was horrible, I came back from travelling, I could focus on that and be like, oh, it's so sad. My whole life, I had a visa to work in Australia and live there for a bit. But now it could have got a lot worse if something happened there. I'm back now. I've gone through all of it. I've got all of it removed, and I've created my own podcast coming off of that. It's like all these positive things happen. And if I was just focused on the negative, I wouldn't be as happy as I am now. And that's a big thing about just being grateful for what you've got.
Yeah, I agree. That's something I do on my walks too. Just like 10 things I'm grateful for.
Yeah, it literally can be the tiniest things. It's like one of the morning walk I go on, I do like a walking meditation. There's a part in the episode she says, if you're listening to my voice through headphones right now with a phone in your pocket connected to data, you're so grateful. And you're like, oh my God, you don't even realise that. The fact you can just scroll on Spotify, Apple Music and pick that walking meditation.
Is it good?
Yeah. You don't realise how lucky you are.
So the podcast, something that has come good of this whole situation, one of the biggest things probably.
Yeah, literally the biggest thing.
So what's it called?
So Jenuine Chitchat.
Spelled with a J.
Spelt with a J, yeah, because my name's Jen, Jenuine.
Yeah.
So it's all about growing through what you go through. So something that's happened to you, how you got through it, the advice you can give to others. So my whole podcast is just about inviting guests on, see what they've been through, advice they can give, just make this world a bit of a happier place, you know. Because everyone's so grumpy. Yeah. Everyone's so sad about stuff. Whereas if you just listen to a podcast that makes you a little bit happy, it can make your day 10% better if that. And also just sort of, it started because I wanted to make people aware of this deja vu. Yeah. When I was going through it and I heard an episode of or saw like a little snippet on TikTok of someone talking about that, I would have gone and got it checked out a lot earlier than I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want people to kind of be aware of what's going on with themselves and how they can get through stuff. And if I didn't go through this, I would never would have started it. So I'm just like, everything happens for a reason. As much as you don't think it does, it literally does. You just got to believe in that.
So how many episodes have you done now?
So I've done 7. I'm recording my 8th one this afternoon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so nearly double figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just going to keep carrying that on. And then my future goal, I kind of want to get down like the life coaching journey.
Okay.
Potentially have my own little TED talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wicked.
Yeah, I mean, not now, because I feel like I've got to learn a lot more about life. I can't start doing that now. Yeah. Yeah. So that is what I want to end up doing.
A lot of life coaches have been through something themselves, haven't they? They've kind of hit a rock bottom, whether it's addictions or trauma or something like this. And then obviously it just positions you to just have a better take on the world, I guess.
Yeah.
Like for you, there's not really anything which should be more stressful than the situation you've been through in life. So everything else should just kind of come as a...
Yeah, and I think it makes you stronger. Like there's this phrase I saw, and it's like the heavier life gets, the stronger you become. For example, you go to the gym, the heavier weights you lift, the stronger your muscles are becoming. So you need to, sometimes life needs to get heavy for you to come out strong the other side. And yeah, it may feel heavy, you may feel really shit, you may feel really low. Like, why is this happening to me? Everything in life is a lesson. As much as you don't think it is and you're feeling sorry for yourself, why is this happening to me? Oh, I'm so sad. Just get on with it. Realise when something's bad's happening. And I'm not saying I'm positive 24/7. I'm not. Some days I am down, I'll have a cry over nothing. Like, that's just normal, that's life. But when stuff has gone wrong, I've now taught myself, although I'm upset in that situation when something's gone bad, I'm like, Jen, I know I'm upset right now, but I know I'll look back in this in a couple of weeks, couple of months and realise this is a lesson, and I'll learn, going through this process, how I've learnt to got through this, I can then apply that to the next time it happens. And just that is why everything is just a lesson. You've just got to get stronger the heavier it gets.
So what would your advice be to someone that's potentially struggling right now? Like, what's the first step for them?
First step, I think, stop overthinking about what if this happens, what if that happens, because a lot of people focus so much on that. Stop thinking about that. And also remind yourself this is just a temporary feeling. If you're going through something right now that you're feeling really down about, you will not feel like that forever. You've got to constantly just keep telling yourself that. And then I think once you've got through that, just take it step by step. Like, you can't completely change your mindset overnight. But I think start telling yourself it's temporary, you're going to get through it, as hard as that is. And then start off with a gratitude. Start being grateful for what's around you. Although something bad might be happening right now, pick out what's good. Like 90% of your day may be shit. Pick out that 10% that's making you feel good. And that'll just give you those little bursts of energy.
Just focus on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world is just... like, your perception of the world is just based on what you focus on, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
it is.
I always think it's so important for people to just give themselves their own time somehow, even in a busy life, just away from the phone, just whether that be walking, whether that be a gym, whether it be sitting down to meditate, whether it is, just an hour a day of your own time, your headspace, so that each day when you come back to that hour, something just changes in your mind. Like the gratitude, I don't think about that during the day.
No.
And then I go for a walk and it's just kicks back in. I'm like, like, what am I grateful for? And
I think that's the biggest thing, is a walk, because that is what got me through all of it, was walking every day. It's like you're taking yourself out of that situation where you're worried at home. And I don't know what it is about nature, when you just see like birds tweeting and stuff like that, it just makes you feel so happy. And just go for a walk, because even my mum recently, she just started the gym and she's not done it in years and years. And she was so scared about starting it and was putting it off so much. And she literally said she's never felt better. She's just doing an hour in a gym class or an hour on a walk. You just need to do something that's different in your day to normal, and it'll put you in a completely different mindset.
100%. So what's your plans now moving forward? Where are you at?
So my plans now, just going to carry on with the podcast. Hopefully I've got a lot of guests lined up. Just want it to get a little bit bigger to spread more positivity. Mm-hmm. And then, I want to look into sort of, not life coaching, but I want to start training myself with more courses or getting into that side of thing. And I also want to get into marketing now, because since I started the podcast, I love all the digital creating, the content creating, all of that. So I think that's also what I want to do on the side of the podcast, get more in the creative world, because I saw all the opportunities and the people you meet. That is one big thing I love about the creative industry, is you meet so many different people, like coming on this podcast or guests coming on mine. There's so many different stories, you meet different people, then you get new opportunities through doing all of that. So yeah, that's my plan now, just to sort of jump more into the creative world and carry on with that.
That's the cool thing with the podcast. Like, we've met people that we'd just never get to sit down and have a hour, 2 hour conversation with. Just unbelievable people, hear their life, get their wisdom.
Yeah.
I think podcasts are so cool. I love it. It is good. It is hard to stay consistent, but it's once you've got the niche of it, you're gonna niche of it. But I mean, once you've understood it, it'll get easier. Yeah, I love it. They're only going to keep growing as well. I think podcasts, there's so many out there now. But yeah, cool. Well, appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I'm the first time I'm a guest.
Yeah.
Feels weird being the other side of it.
Yeah.
I like it, yeah.
Do you like it? Do you prefer it?
No. I think I prefer being the host. I mean, I love being the guest, 'cause I love talking about myself. But but I think I prefer being the host, because I love hearing people's stories. Yeah. Obviously, like, I know my own story. I've said it about 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
But I have enjoyed being the guest. Like, I have enjoyed being the other side of it. It's actually interesting. Now I feel like I understand how they're feeling more than just actually interviewing them. Yeah. Which is good.
Nice. Well, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Where can people find your socials, actually, and your...
So on Instagram and TikTok, Jenuine Chitchat, just literally spelled like that with a J.
YouTube.
And YouTube, YouTube the same. I need to get on Apple Music, but I need to figure that one out, because it's just a one-man band at the moment, trying to figure it all out myself.
There's a platform, I don't know what Ask Harry, we use.
Yeah, it's like an RSS feed.
Yeah, it goes out
so I tried to do that and something went wrong, but I need to look into that more.
I think we're on, like, there's other platforms we get views on as well, like random ones, Amazon podcasts, and a few other ones I've not even heard of, and we actually still get quite a few views from it, so it's good. Don't know who listens to these random platforms, but it's
that's what I thought when I saw that. I was like, I've never even heard of this platform. Who's sitting there thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna go on that?
Oh, sometimes it's also foreign countries, so we get, like, we was in the Indonesian charts at one stage or something. Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's quite random.
We go through certain episodes, we'll just get a spike in a different country or something. It's funny.
Oh wow.
South Africa. Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's cool. But cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.